What's up, everybody? Welcome to GoJo and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., and Jesse Cofield holding it down for us in the DraftKings Boston studio. We are brought to you by Wrangler, made for the ride of life. Save 15% on your first Wrangler.com order with promo code GOJO15. Got a great show coming up. As always, download, subscribe, rate, review, leave us 5-star rating, and check us out here live Monday through Friday, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern on the DraftKingsNetwork.com, DraftKings YouTube channel, Samsung TV Plus, and more. Chris Hassel, my partner in the broadcast booth on the weekends for College Football Saturday Night, also does a great job over at CBS Sports, is going to stop by. He had a video go viral yesterday of him slandering local media that I have, Dad, never in my entire fall gotten more texts from more people, from more portions of my life, asking if this was sincere or not than I did yesterday with this video going viral.
Yeah, and I was one of them. I have not met Chris yet, but I love your guys' work together, and I saw this, and my first thought as well was, okay, this had to be a setup. It was too clean, the way it was all done, but we know how it works, man. The vitriol on social media of, getting a big head, doesn't do local media anymore. It was now, if that's what he was shooting for, boy, he succeeded, because he got a lot of darts thrown his way in this one.
Yeah, we are going to present him with his Oscar because the acting chops are phenomenal. Or maybe it was sourced from a real place. I don't know. We're going to ask Chris about that and look ahead at the College Football Playoff Committee's next round of rankings with him, as those are coming out tonight, and we have to look forward to. But, Dad, we had Monday Night Football last night, and did it live up to it for you? We had a Super Bowl rematch during the regular season, Monday Night Football, Eagles versus Chiefs. The Eagles get the come-from-behind win in this one. It was a rain-soaked night at Arrowhead. So just at a base level, we built it up a lot yesterday. Did this live up to it for you as far as the quality of this game between these two teams?
Well, I mean, the competitiveness, I'll say, did. You get Patrick Mahomes on a drive to win the game. So, you know what? You're on the edge of your seat. And as we'll obviously get into and why that didn't work. But you could see with Kansas City, anyway, both teams really. I mean, the one part of the field that I've been most impressed with, quite honestly, has been the Chiefs' defense. The Chiefs' defense has been absolutely humming. They had 5 sacks in the game, though 4, I think it was 4 in the first half, so just 1 in the second half. The Eagles had one, Hassan Reddick had one on the first drive, I believe, and that was it. That was the end of the sacks for Philadelphia. Now, not everything is based around sacks. There's pressure on the quarterback and all that as well. But that was probably the side of the ball that has impressed me the most of these two teams. But I'll say, Mike, as for those that maybe don't know, as Philly wins this game 21-17, what stood out for me and what I said and why I thought Philadelphia would win this game, and what I think, not because of this reason, I think this is a ongoing reason for Kansas City. Who's the next guy? Who's stepping up right now? Outside of Travis Kelce, and then turnovers in the red zone, 2 in the red zone. Even Travis Kelce got a ball punched out by Bradley Roby. But, Mike, they have 26 drops. They lead the league in drops. They had 5 last night, 3 on the final drive. So that worries me. Add in the fact they're averaging 5 points in the second half, worst in the league. Add into the fact they have been shut out in the second half the last 3 games. So there's some worry there where them coming back on you, well, this one they actually had a lead, but then when they were down coming back, you always think, well, it's Patrick Mahomes, so they're going to do this. They've had some issues in the second half, and that really, really came to fruition last night.
Yeah, it's amazing. We talked about the newness of some of this receiver room and trying to see guys step up into more varied roles. Now, to be clear, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, guys that played prominent roles in the Super Bowl and had big plays in that game. So they're not totally new. Marquez Valdes-Scantling has been around there, but for whatever reason, the back end of this, once you took Juju Smith-Schuster out of the offense this offseason, all of a sudden has started to become wildly inconsistent. Because that's going to be the story coming off this game, Dad, is this looked like 2 incredibly evenly matched teams through the vast majority of this game. To start off, I think the first 4 drives between each team looked exactly the same. It was give up a sack on the first drive, punt, score a touchdown, punt. it went back and forth, and they looked like two prize fighters trading blows. And then when we got to the second half, the Eagles offense that had been struggling for the vast majority of the game, it was not a banner night for Jalen Hurts, especially in the first half. He was very much affected by that Chiefs defense because Chris Jones was the best player on the football field last night, bar none. 5 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, a pass breakup, and a quarterback hit. He was a monster wherever they wanted to put him. But Jalen Hurts had struggled for the majority of that night, so much so that people were wondering, is he hurt? They're not throwing the ball down the field much. And then, Dad, they're able to come up with really a handful of big plays in the second half, led by DeAndre Swift in the short area, between short runs, a jet handoff, and those middle screens. And then Jalen Hurts stepping up to make really the one big throw he made all night in the almost touchdown pass to DeVonta Smith that gave way to the tush push. This was 100%. All right, the Chiefs defense continues to be good enough to win you a Super Bowl, one of the best in the league. And offensively, the Chiefs offense could not do what the Jalen Hurts-led Eagles offense could do, which is make those plays. And, Dad, I think the thing is, I don't know what the ready solution is right now for the Kansas City Chiefs. They can't change much in that regard. They're not going to get new players between now and the end of the season. And so you're really just hoping that the consistent greatness of Patrick Mahomes is over time going to give you enough tickets to the lottery to maybe cash one of those in.
What's been amazing, again, as we talk about, is trying to find that next guy, right? Because we keep saying, was it Rashee Rice, who was second on the team, is second on the team in receptions. But all of a sudden, last night, it's Justin Watson. Justin Watson had 14 receptions for the year coming into the game. He led with 11 targets last night. 11. He ended up with 5 receptions on 11 targets. So now he has 19 receptions, but almost had as many targets last night as he's had receptions for the entire year. And as Patrick Mahomes said after the game, I'm throwing to the guy who's open. You know, he's basically, hey, I'm an equal opportunity guy, especially when I don't have
Tyreek. Because of the way they covered Travis Kelce most of last night. You saw there was a very clear shot on the one touchdown of Travis Kelce with 2 guys not only looking at him, but mugging him the entire time, which is the way you need to play him.
That's exactly right. That's why we keep saying who's going to be the next guy that you can count on. And as I said, 26 drops leading the league doesn't work that way. You know, it doesn't help. And for those, I'll say again, who did not see, with about $1.40 to go, just as Jalen Hurts had thrown the beautiful deep ball to DeVonta Smith on the 1-yard line, I mean, Patrick Mahomes couldn't have run out 50 yards and put the ball in Valdez-Scantling's hand any better than he did on that bomb, who had 2 steps on the defender. And Scantling just dropped it, just flat out dropped it. And then after that, they get a intentional grounding, which was the correct call. It's 4th and 25, and I'll be damned if it's Watson, again, curling up at 27 yards and is basically open. Now, he had somebody on him right as he was catching it, but the ball, Mike, did hit him in the hands. The ball hit him. Now, it wasn't as bad a drop, I don't think, as Scantling, but the ball was there.
So I understand both of them egregious drops, and it's made more so by the fact that Patrick Mahomes is throwing darts. In these situations, you heard Troy and Joe in the booth saying that even at 4th and 23 with the end of the game, you're never out of range with Patrick Mahomes, because not only does he have the arm, but he's accurate enough to give a guy a chance. And you're right, it got there. He's got a guy draped all over his hips, so I'm willing to extend a little bit of grace there. For Scantling, that's an NFL catch you got to make, especially when you're the deep ball guy. But it's still a difficult catch. It's not like they were dropping hitches and slants and making it that bad there. But when you've got the opportunity to make a play and you've got the quarterback hitting the ball there, I understand you have to make it. I also do want to acknowledge those are both really high degree of difficulty catches.
Okay, that's fine, but that's the micro. The macro is still 26 drops. The next closest is the Jets with, I think, 20 drops. So that's a problem. That's a problem. And as Patrick Mahomes also correctly said, because a lot of people are going to look at those plays and say, we have other plays to make it. He said, I threw a red zone interception. He did. Kevin Byard made a nice play following a route in the end zone, made a nice interception, but there's an interception. You have Travis Kelce, who got the ball punched out in the red zone as well. They lose one there. So, and as I mentioned, so look at the macro. 5 points they're averaging in the second half. That's it. Worst in the league, and the last 3 games shut out in the second half. So I'll give you that on the drops. Not sometimes maybe not the easiest catches, but still, pros got to make those catches. Still, in the big picture, too many drops this year, and still trying to find who are we counting on other than Travis Kelce.
I will say, guys, it speaks so much to Patrick Mahomes that he has not thrown his receivers under the bus a single time. In his post-game presser, I mean, he got asked about it so many times, and he was like, I wish I had thrown that a little, like, you know what I mean? He just will not talk badly about his guys, which speaks to him as a leader. I'll just say that.
Agreed.
Absolutely. I think we have Mahomes and Andy Reid both talking about this in the postgame. And you're right. They've addressed it the exact right way, which is actually the thing that gives me hope. Listen to this.
I think we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. I've got to do a better job helping out with that. And then, my guys have got to do the same thing. So we've all got to pick it up a notch there the second half.
Today it was penalties and just miscues. Yeah, we've got to find ways to score at the end of the day. Defense is playing great football, has been all year. Offense, we got to find ways to finish football games.
So, Dad, they took the exact right path on this. It's why they're both great leaders, and it's why I think this still has a chance to work, because you mentioned the real thing in all of this. 2 red zone turnovers, probably the more damning part of what happened last night, and especially when you got your 2 best players. Patrick Mahomes throws an interception that's ill-advised down in the red zone, and Travis Kelce gets a ball punched out there. And I don't want to hear anything, by the way, about Travis Kelce and what he did on the bye week. I haven't seen much of it yet, but I'm just getting out in front of it right now. None of this was about that. Travis Kelce was the same player available in all the same ways to Patrick Mahomes as he usually is. It was one bad play on a rain-soaked night and a great play by the Eagles defense in punching that football out. But, Dad, huge plays that swung the balance of the game here, and I won't even leave Andy Reid absolved from this, because while there were some questionable calls from officiating, Andy Reid punting on 4th down and 4 from the plus 39 and then having that ball sail out of the back of the end zone. And looking at this again, I understand some people might say, oh, well, your defense is playing incredible. You pin them back and do that. It is a lot harder to have your punter try and check up a ball inside the 5 or 10 punting from the plus 40 than it is to have your future Hall of Fame quarterback go and get 4 yards while you're in plus territory. In a game where the margins were this close, where we saw them be aggressive in so many other ways, I was stunned that they sent the punting unit out for that play.
Completely agree. Absolutely stunned. And this is where the art of the coffin corner kick comes into play. It's so close. You're right. That nose down is a little more difficult, man. It's like really feeling a pitching wedge, right? Or maybe even a sand wedge on the golf course. You have to massage that thing because it's so close, where, back in the day a bit, that coffin corner used to work so well, but we don't really see that now, and that costs you. I completely agree. I was absolutely amazed that happened, and that's why those guys are pros. They know not to just point the finger at some drop passes. They understand there's a full spectrum to the game that can have an effect. So, I mean, that's why they're as great as they are, and that's why, one's going to be in the Hall of Fame and the other's on the trajectory to be in the Hall of Fame if he's not already. But kudos to Philadelphia for this one. It's the first time since Andy has left Philly to be in KC that Philly's won. It's the first time Jason has beaten his brother, Travis, in this game. And I'll say 2 things about this. Isaiah Pacheco could be the hardest runner, most violent runner in the league. And I don't mean by, knocking people over. I just mean that dude never stops his legs. He is what every kid should watch as far as how to just keep going even when you're being hit. It is really, really fun to watch the way he runs. And the other thing is, we talk about Trent Williams, the left tackle for San Francisco, when he gets mad, how people kind of disperse. Chris Jones is that way as well. I mean, I don't want to see if Chris Jones and Trent Williams ever get in a fight, what would happen. But Chris Jones scares me as well. When that dude gets mad for his size, 6'6", about 315, those are 2 guys that when they get mad, you just say, okay, all right, all good, because he took off on the sideline a little bit, and you can just see, man, he's got that little bit of, he can have that far away look in his eye at times.
Yeah, guys that have that and couple it with the physical ability to do damage are the ones you got to watch out for. The wise words of former New Orleans Saints right tackle Zach Strief echo in my ear forever, which is you don't get bonus points for blocking him when he's mad. There's no reason to do that to yourself, especially with a guy that talented. You're already going to have a tough enough time that day. Dan, overall, did this game make you think differently about either of these two teams coming in? We knew the drops were a problem with the Chiefs, and they're still 7-3. Like, they lead the league with drops. This is sort of like the Josh Allen turnover thing where I look up and go, all right, you're still 7-3. You would argue the two biggest games on your schedule with the Lions and this game have been losses, and so you could say it showed up in big moments there, no doubt, but you're still going to be one of the last few teams left standing, and it's just going to be, can you figure this out somewhat? Some half measure towards a solution on this between now and the postseason when it ultimately matters, because they're going to be there. They're going to be one of the teams contending for the 1 overall seed. I know Baltimore jumps ahead of them right now as one of the 3 teams with 8 or more wins left in the NFL, but ultimately I don't walk away from this any more or less worried about the Chiefs than I was at the start.
Well, I'm a little more worried, and I think of everything the way you do is that they're there in the end, that they're obviously in the playoffs and one of the favorites to get to the Super Bowl. So what could stop them? And the things that are happening right now, Mike, could stop them. I mean, scoring 5 points in the second half, being shut out the last few games in the second half, turnovers in the red zone. Man, it only takes one time in the postseason and you're going home. So there is a little bit of worry for me overall with the who's the next guy you're throwing to, because, man, every team is going to be like Philly. They've already been. Travis Kelce still had 7 catches last night, but only averaging 6 yards a catch. You are going to put everything you can on this guy and make somebody else beat you. And like you said, they have receivers on that team that they've had, so it's not like it's all new guys. But you just, to me, I don't know about the confidence of where you're going to go. As Patrick Mahomes said, I'm going to go where the guy's open. Hence, Justin Watson getting 11 targets last night because he was the guy who was open. So there's a little bit of concern for me because the issues they're having are in the second half, and then along with the drops. So because it's only one and done in the postseason, there's a little bit of worry there. And I think we figured out these two teams, at least the last couple times they played, be down by 10, and you're in good shape. The Kansas City Chiefs were down 10 in the Super Bowl. They came back and won. The Eagles were down at 10 halftime last night, came back and won. But, yes, I'm a little concerned. And, again, this is for win the Super Bowl again, not just, have a good regular season in the playoffs. There are some things that can be concerning.
If we're going to do that minor version of concern, because for the Eagles in general, this is the kind of resilience I'd expect. Jalen Hurts didn't look great, but made the plays when it mattered. That offense looked night and day different without Dallas Goedert out there, their tight end who was missing with injury. And so you got to hope and pray for the back half of the season that you can get that guy healthy for the games that matter most. But, Dad, with the Chiefs, too, I guess both of these teams, they're so built the right way in the areas that matter. Two teams virtually identical statistically on defense, even though they do it in different ways. And then offensively, that Chiefs offensive line was dominant for large stretches of that game, especially on the interior against a really good group of, forget just overall Hassan Reddick and those guys, Montez Sweat, but interior-wise, the Eagles got dudes up front, and that interior trio we always talk about for Kansas City handles business. And how about this defense, Dad? You want to talk about the poster for teams that pay your quarterback on how you've got to operate with the rest of your team. What the Chiefs were able to do in the 2022 draft class on defense. Trent McDuffie, their first-round pick. George Karlaftis, their second-round pick. Brian Cook in the middle of that draft. Leo Chenal, who was great at linebacker for them in spots last night. They almost remade their defense in one draft in a way that is the poster, again, for what other teams are going to have to do. People always complain once you pay the quarterback, it gets harder. Not if you go and evaluate the way the Kansas City Chiefs did.
And then the way Steve Spagnuolo, their DC, calls games. I love the way he calls games. And I mentioned it yesterday, the interior of that line, Tooney, Creed Humphrey, and Smith, Smith, the right guard. Those guys were dominant, 168 yards rushing, almost 6 yards a carry. I mean, they got it done.
They got it done in a big way, but the Eagles got it done for the dub. We can talk more about the best team left in the NFL, but coming up next, big news finally coming out of New York.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. So far, the NFL season has been plagued with quarterback injuries. So here's an update on who's slotting in at center for a couple teams, because you probably need that update. Zach Wilson finally broke Robert Saleh. Saleh announced that Tim Boyle will start Friday against the Dolphins. It finally happened. Meanwhile, in the wake of the Deshaun Watson news, the Browns have officially signed Joe Flacco as backup quarterback. They're going to stick with Dorian Thompson-Robinson against the Broncos. And finally, Falcons are back to rolling with Desmond Ridder. So Arthur Smith made the announcement Ridder's back as the club's QB1. Taylor Heineke did start against the Cardinals in Week 10, but Ridder had to come in and finish the game. Heineke suffered that hamstring injury. He's still sidelined with that. So guys, a lot of movement, but let's start with the Zach Wilson news. Third benching in 13 months for Zach Wilson. Robert Saleh finally seeming to admit that it's not going to work out with him. How do we feel about this move?
Too little, too late. Like, I don't know what this really does for you. This is shuffling deck chairs in the Titanic right now for the Jets, Dad.
Oh, yeah, it definitely is. Listen, they made their calculated move. I mean, between Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas, they made their move back when Aaron Rodgers got hurt to not make a move. It was one way or the other. And we all were screaming, sign someone. There were those out there screaming, who are you going to sign that's going to make a difference? And they threw all their chips on Zach Wilson. So it was a decision they made, and it was the wrong one. You basically had a 50-50 shot sticking with Zach or trying somebody else, and they stuck with Zach. And as, Jesse mentioned, third benching in the last, 13 months or whatever it was. I mean, so that didn't work. So now, Tim, you brought in Trevor Siemian, but Tim Boyle knows the system better because he's been with Nathaniel Hackett before. So Boyle gets the shot. I mean, all it does is, as I said yesterday, there was, I think, part of everybody that hoped the Jets could hang around to see if Aaron Rodgers could actually pull off coming back, which you and I didn't think that was going to happen. But there's no shot. There's just no shot of that happening, of them being in contention for Aaron to even think about coming back in December to play. So this has been an abject failure. I don't know what the locker room is like there when they didn't make a move, to the point of now benching Zach Wilson, of what the thought was. That did anybody in that locker room think somebody could come and save them anyway? But at least I think they wanted the trying, and that's what didn't happen.
Well, I think it's the defensive side of that locker room, right? Because offensively, there's plenty of blame to go around there. Up front, I saw Dan Orlovsky talking about this yesterday. You weren't going to find many quarterbacks that would have success in front of the offensive line the way that they've played so far, which was the worry going into the season. And with Aaron Rodgers, you thought with how fast he gets the ball out, with the fact that he's a quarterback who knows more of where he wants to go down in and down out, he'd be able to mitigate some of that. But their ceiling was still ultimately going to be determined by how well that group was able to protect him. Dad, now I'm sure the defensive players on that team, I don't know if this would be more frustrating, right? You make a change now. Once it seems like your fate's already sealed, you make a change now because it's one of the only things left to you here, when there might be people that looked at this situation and said, this is the third time Zach has been benched in 13 months. I thought we had done this before. Yep. And while it is admirable in this day and age to look at a young quarterback who I know, and I saw Tom Brady complaining about this yesterday, saying there's not enough development of young quarterbacks going on right now. They're not taking the time with a lot of young players in general to try and give them a chance to build up and acclimate to the professional game. That is all well and good, but that's something that usually is only afforded to one class of player, and that is the quarterback. For the rest of these guys that are sitting around watching the very limited time tick away on their careers, especially defensively, got to be looking over at that going, all right, I understand and appreciate all of that from a general value standpoint. Doesn't really help me much right now in my limited window, where this is the second straight year where the defense, and the Jets defense, has suffered in certain ways and not been as overwhelming as they were last year. But I still think that traces back to the fact that the offense has just been a non-compete.
Yeah, and I think if you really think about it, for most players in a locker room, I think they feel if they lose, especially you had Aaron Rodgers. If you have, think of Jalen Hurts or Patrick Mahomes, or just start listing the other best quarterbacks, and if they get hurt and are out for the season, I think a lot of times you feel your season is lost, right? Sure. That you lost that guy. And I'm sure the Jets felt that way. But when you have a great defense, because we keep talking about like the Browns with a young quarterback in DTR now saying, and I think that's where the Jets were. They're like, wait a minute, we have a really good defense. A, now we feel like we're wasting a year, but B, we feel like we can still do something because we're going to keep you guys, you're our offense, we're going to keep you in every game. We just need you to do something to not hurt us, and maybe every now and then something to help us, and we'll do the rest. Some defenses are that good. So while I think for most teams you would think our season's done, I'll continue to say we saw our season in 1991 fritter away as Randall Cunningham got his knee blown out. We went backup after backup and just couldn't get any traction on offense and saw a golden opportunity to slip away with the best defense in the league. And that's where, like the Browns are right now. The Jets, again, their defense isn't of the caliber as the Browns, but they have a really, really good defense. So the thought is that we could still do something, but you did nothing to help us with a backup quarterback, with anybody that we feel confident with. And at this point, Mike, it's tough to keep going back and reliving that because we're removed from that for a long ways right now. You can't do anything now. Now it has to be a free agent. You didn't make a move. But yeah, that's going to sting with players when you, as you said, when you have a limited time in this game to try and get something done, to try to accomplish that championship.
So the Jets will try and hammer away at this thing, although it feels like this year is now officially a wash. Aaron Rodgers' rehab process might have a little bit less vigor to it as he looks and probably understands the reality of this situation. Dad, I want to get to another headline, speaking of a defense around the NFL that has helped its offense out plenty of times here. Did you see this headline about Micah Parsons from this last weekend? Star linebacker for the Cowboys, puked twice at the on the game against the Carolina Panthers, and when asked about it after, said that apparently he ate a whole scoop of C4 on an empty stomach or close to it, and then went out there and had his heart beating way too damn fast. And that, Dad, I don't know if pre-workout was necessarily a thing that was around when you were playing. Did you have a lot of that?
You know, coming to the end of my career, you started to see more supplements being used like that. And for anybody that doesn't know, again, it's a pre-workout. Basically has a lot of caffeine and it's going to get you jacked up for a workout. You're supposed to mix it in water and drink it like a drink. He like we've seen others in the world of supplements do, is they'll take a scoop and they'll just throw it down. You know,
for the casuals at home, it's called dry scooping, and it's a time-honored tradition among meatheads and dumbasses.
It's horrific. It's something I never bought into at all. I'm going to mix my drinks, okay? I'm not, it's like doing the cinnamon challenge when you do a spoonful of cinnamon and how you can't swallow that. I'm not doing that.
The cinnamon's not going to get you to move weight, though. At least when you dry scoop the C4, brother, you're going to be ready to go in there and max deadlift like your life depends on it.
Yeah, help Micah Parsons.
You swallow it. You dry scoop it, you swallow it, you maybe give it a little wash of water after just to get the coating, because you don't want to lose all the little bits that are dried in your mouth.
I mean, what's the difference? Mix it in some water and drink it. It's going to absorb into your bloodstream. I mean, what are you doing? Yeah, it really helped him as he puked all over himself. I mean, listen, we've heard your brother Jake talk about this, when his pre-workout him going too much and you start to get that upset stomach. These are things you got to hit right. You got to time well. And he didn't. And the whole powder thing, I never got that, just taking the dry scoop.
Yeah,
never
explain
at
that
all.
to me. So that's a thing. Like where you
do
it dry.
Oh,
but
definitely.
why?
Dry scooping is
to save the time?
Because guys mostly.
That is boy math. That's boy math.
Dry scooping is 100% boy math. And Dad, I can tell you exactly how this went for Micah Parsons. Because Micah doesn't strike me as a guy who's majoring in pre-workout supplements. Seems very naturally athletically gifted. What this seems like is he walked by a guy that's like the R4 on kickoff. Some backup linebacker who was getting ready to go put his body on the line to bust a wedge and was over there taking a pre-workout supplement and looked and said, "Oh, can I have some of that?" And had the guy explain to him how to do it, and then got a little bit too much dip on his chip. It seems like that's probably exactly how this went, and he learned a valuable lesson, as I'm sure his forehead felt like it was peeling off and his heart was going to beat out of his chest.
Without a doubt. He joked around, said maybe half a scoop next time. Just mix it in water. And when you take it on an empty stomach, though, too, that's going to get you as well. But I agree, that's how it went down. I will never dry scoop. I don't get it. I don't understand it. And it cost Micah some puke.
The thought of my 60-year-old father dry scooping will sustain me for the rest of the day. So we left off talking about my dad dry scooping NO Explode, which is just a great visual. But Jesse, you actually want us to try this as a show unit, correct?
Yes, I do. However,
well, minus you.
Yeah,
you're not doing it.
Carrying a child, I don't think I should do that. Maybe when I come back from maternity leave, I can try it. But I definitely think that for the A block, one of these shows, you two have to dry scoop on camera, and we have to see that.
Why are you bringing me into it? I think it's ridiculous to do. I have never done it, and I don't plan to ever do it. Mike, you've done it. I know your brother Jake has done it. I don't get it. I don't understand the thought process
behind it. Maybe you'll get it after you do it.
Right. You got to try it first and then see how it fits for you.
Jesse, do you understand? You do that before you work out. You're asking us to do that in like the A block, the beginning of a show, so we dry scoop and then do nothing for the next 2 hours.
I want to see what happens.
You could do to me?
And you take like your life depends on it.
Yeah,
with
I want to
that
see
A
what
block
happens.
segment.
Yeah, you know what it is? I'm going to be taking a trip to the bathroom during the show is going to be what happens.
Man,
you want to dry scoop? Have a ball, man. I'll watch you.
No,
I've done smelling salts before shows before. We ordered a bunch of those when I was at ESPN on the afternoon show, and we're ripping smelling salts right before we went on air. I almost had a stroke. I hit it way too hard and way too close to one nostril, and that's the danger of some. Like, honestly, Dad, doing it now would be a lot better because the formula on most of these pre-workouts is a little bit closer to regulated, and they've taken some of the good stuff out of it. Like, you go back to 2009, Jack 3D, NO Explode, all these different pre-workout supplements. C4 also on the medal stand for that. The potency of this, it was the same era that we had original recipe Four Loko, so that tells you how we were getting down in general.
I was just going to say that was when we had OG Four Loko, and then it started literally causing deaths, and they had to take it off the shelves.
Yeah.
But like, we lived through that. Like, I drank original Four Loko.
We
not gonna lie, I've never had
compensation from the government.
Yeah.
Never had one of those in my life either. Just like I have never dry scooped in my life, nor will I.
Well, I'm not surprised you never had a Four Loko. It wasn't exactly, the drink of choice for somebody, unless you were a college kid trying to get as drunk and hyper as possible at the same time.
Jesse, were you going to say for somebody my age?
Yeah, I was, but then I just...
Okay,
I was like, let me just...
It's okay. You tried to walk that one back halfway through, huh?
I did, yeah, I did. An attempt
your
was
family
made.
were affected by original recipe Four Loko, you may be eligible for financial compensation.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, wow. The give your 50-plus-year-old parents NO Explode or Four Lokos challenge. Get that on TikTok tomorrow.
Mike, you still work out. Would you do that now? Would you dry scoop now?
I don't take pre-workout anymore now. Like, I'm not working out hard enough to where I need any of that. I just slug a little bit of black coffee and call it a day because I'm a frail little baby now. But back in the day, there was nothing better than walking around a college football locker room. And hey, you know what? If your pre-workout wasn't hitting the right way, you walk over to one of your buddies. He's got a label that you've been eyeing for a while, something you wanted to try out. He seems to be getting pretty solid pumps in the gym, and you want to see what he's talking about. Going and borrowing a little bit of the new stuff from your buddy right before a workout, and just walking into a high that you have not yet experienced and a pump that you have not tried on for size. It was a rush, man.
Jesse, guys are dumb. I mean, this is what you said. It's boy math.
It's boy math.
I wanted to ask Jesse, because you were a college athlete. Like, did you guys do any of this when it came to workouts or game day or anything for your sports?
No, we used to actually. My coaches are going to love to hear this. We used to do what we called flifting, which is fake lifting, because we didn't want to get big. So we would fake max out so that our numbers were low, so that we would not be forced to move up in weight. So I would be like, take with Cheerios on the bar, because I didn't want to get big. We were trying to stay lean. So we would and we'd go, we said we'd be in the weight room slapping weights around. Go up you're supposed to do 10 reps of something, go up, slap a couple weights, be like, yeah, I just did my whole set. Because they were trying to bulk us up. We did not.
So you guys just defied the strength coach.
Yes, we were actively trying to not get big. So back in the, and things have evolved since then. I think in these programs, like they understand if you're like a lacrosse player, you need to be faster. But like at the time that I was in college, they were like, we're going to put some weight on you girls. It's like, we're going to bulk you up. And we were all like, no, thank you. No.
You know what?
I see.
I do see what you're saying, because when Sydney was at Notre Dame swimming, the weight program for them, I thought, was ridiculous. It was like they were doing like Olympic lifts.
Yes.
And it was like, wait a minute, what are you doing this with swimmers for? I didn't understand it at all.
I totally get it for football and stuff. Yeah, but I'm just
she was good.
It was more of a narcissism vanity thing. We did not want to be bulking up. So yeah, we would just slap a couple weights, fake max out. Worked out.
That's hilarious.
Slap a couple of Cheerios on there.
Yeah.
Talk
that
to your children
hilarious.
about dry scooping and flifting. It's what they're doing in their spare time right now. Mm-hmm. Going total opposite, Dad, on someone more in line with your generation, I want to play this clip. Tom Brady went on Stephen A. Smith's show yesterday, and I was amazed at just how much of an opinion he had in general. I don't think we think of Tom Brady as this guy who was getting ready to make this transition potentially to the broadcast booth and be in this world. We all thought, oh man, he's going to be boring. He's not going to say anything. It felt very different. Take a listen to this.
I think there's a lot of mediocrity in today's NFL. I don't see the excellence that I saw in the past.
Why not?
Why not? I think the coaching isn't as good as it was. I don't think the development of young players is as good as it was. The rules have allowed a lot of bad habits to get into the actual performance of the game. Mm-hmm. So I just think the product, in my opinion, is less than what it's been. I look at a lot of players like Ray Lewis and Rodney Harrison and Ronnie Lott and guys that impacted the game in a certain way, and every hit they would have made would have been a penalty.
So, Dad, I think that's particularly prescient on a day where Kareem Jackson got suspended by the NFL for his hit on Josh Dobbs during the Vikings game, of talking about the differences of this game. So, one, where are you at on Tom Brady? Frosty actually coming in and having opinions on this. You surprised?
Well, I mean, listen, as a former defensive player, he's echoing what we would say, but everybody says we're just complaining as defensive players. But here's the GOAT saying the rule changes has taken away the ability to play certain ways on defense, and it has. And even as defensive players are trying to change and adjust so they don't get fined or penalized every hit, they're still getting fined and penalized for hits. And it's so frustrating. That's why whether I'm doing a broadcast for Sunday Night Football or talking to you, I get frustrated with some of the penalties on the defensive side of the ball. They've made it so difficult to play defense now. And then as far as, listen, you have a lot of younger coaches. You don't get a lot of retreads anymore. You're getting the younger generation of coordinators, both offense and defense, to come into the league and get their first head coaching jobs. And it's interesting that Tom's thought is it's just not where it is, because these guys, they don't have a lot of experience at head coaching. So does that domino to the development of players coming out of college?
I love Tom Brady planting his flag and kind of doing the Shaq, where it's, I was so good that all of my criticism will be unimpeachable when it comes to how I look at the game. Like Shaq routinely, back in my day, guy talking about how guys should just go out there and dominate. Tom Brady can look at this and play the old man card and say the game today isn't what it was when I was playing. And because Tom Brady is pretty much the undisputed greatest of all time at this point, he's going to be able to diffuse whatever anybody says with his overwhelming body of work in this case. It's a pretty great place to be in life, Dad. Pretty heady play from Tom Brady as far as his role in the media sphere going forward. I like this for him.
And if he is going to go into the booth, you're going to hear a lot more opinion from him. Something we're not used to hearing, especially when he was in New England. Now that opened up a little more in Tampa Bay, and he's got the podcast that he does as well. But you will hear more and more from him if, in fact, he does go into the booth. I know there are those that think maybe he still won't, but if he does, you're going to hear a lot more opinions from him. And I think a lot of people are looking forward to that, because we spent a lot of years of not getting that, of getting, the locker room answers when he was in New England.
I'm excited for Tom Brady to tell us all about how, it's great that they've got these mobile quarterbacks in this day and age, but you still got to be able to win from the pocket, just like I did. Let him know, Tom. 7 rings right in your grill if you got anything else to say about it. That's the bottom line, because Tom Brady said it was.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. We got some breaking news coming through on the Twitterverse. So a statement from Mike Tomlin posted to the Steelers Twitter account, which reads, Matt Canada has been relieved of his duties as offensive coordinator. I appreciate Matt's hard work and dedication, and I wish him the best moving forward in his career. Fellas, little breaking news here. Not entirely surprising given the struggles that the Steelers have faced on offense. Kenny Pickett and the guys not exactly happy after a lot of these games.
I want to know how often it's been that we've had a coaching move like this on a team that's 2 games over 500. Like, this is an amazing place we've arrived where the Steelers have somehow managed to cobble together not just an okay season, but a season that's got them inside playoff contention right now. And yet the offense has been such a glaring issue. The stat that everyone's been talking about for the last few weeks, Dad, outscored in each of their first 9 games, the first team in NFL history to have a winning record through that stretch while being outgained offensively in all of those games. This felt inevitable, but anything about the timing surprise you?
No, not really. I mean, because, listen, they don't like the way their offense is going right now. And I think the important part here is what you just said. They're 2 games over 500 and been outscored by, 29 points. I mean, it looks weird, but as they say, it doesn't matter what it looks like. It matters where you are. And right now, they're right there, right? They're in the playoffs. So you have to keep that in mind going forward and say, this is part of our team that needs to pick up the slack. And we have been thinking about this for a while. Now the second coordinator we know fired, Ken Dorsey in Buffalo, had been fired, and now Canada. Remember the one game the fans were actually chanting fire Canada, which, when's the last time you heard fans chanting to fire a coordinator? So I think this was inevitable, and I think Mike Tomlin, who is as respected as there is out there, I think basically it got to the point where, whether you want to say good, bad, or indifferent, we are in the playoff hunt right now to do something in the postseason, and this side of the ball has to improve, and what's the change we can make? It's not going to be benching Kenny Pickett, so kind of like in Buffalo, you're going to say, okay, let's change the coordinator, because there are mistakes out there that have nothing to do with the coordinator, but we've been questioning it all along, and a lot of people have, is that relationship between Matt Canada and Kenny Pickett, and Mike Tomlin just feels we have a chance here to do something, and we need to improve that side of the ball.
Yep, frustration had finally been boiling over in a lot of ways, and you've got weapons that are compelling enough on this offense to where you say, if we mix up the bag some, maybe we can get something. No word yet on who they have that's going to take over for him there. I know Mike Sullivan, who's the quarterback's coach, was, I believe, the offensive coordinator for the Giants for a little while. He's been around the league and been a part of some good teams in New York in the past, so could get the nod there, Dad. And ultimately, you do wonder. It's gotten to the point where, based on what they've performed as, anything's going to be better than what they had, right? It feels very unlikely that it can get worse for them offensively. And so for the Pittsburgh Steelers fans, their national nightmare is over. This seems like something they have wanted for quite a long time. And so that now they've got the move there. Mike Tomlin, who is maintaining his record as some guy who's never finished below 500 in a season, seems hell-bent on pursuing that and understands, hey, I've done all I can. Even if you think Matt Canada is not the entire problem for them, and most Steelers fans, I think now, like you said at the beginning, we're comfortable splitting that blame up between him and Kenny Pickett, who has not thus far impressed requisite with his draft position. Now you make the decision here, and now you move forward. So, Dad, what goes into that in the locker room when you've got a firing like this in the middle of the season as far as the players and everybody else's responses, as we've seen this a couple of times now?
Well, I think players also understand that it's very difficult. You can't just point to one person in the fact a person who's on the sideline and not even on the field, because as I've always said, and I think players even understand this, they're the ones on the field that have to execute, win their one-on-one battles. As it's time-honored to say, if football's a bunch of one-on-one battles out there that you need to win, ultimately to have success, and obviously the game plan around that as well. So I think the Steelers, here's the thing, Mike, is I think there's so much trust in Mike Tomlin and so much respect for Mike Tomlin And Mike Tomlin also, as we mentioned, what are we at, 18 years of 500 or better ball? So he has those receipts as well of being a winning coach to trust what he's doing. And I'm sure that's the one thing, we're not in the locker room, right? So I don't know the relationship of Canada and Pickett. I don't know. And we know coordinators and quarterbacks meet during the week to talk about game plan. At least we've seen that over the years. And it's the way you do business to discuss what the game plan is going to be. So I don't know that relationship. I don't know how that's working because Pickett's a young quarterback. How much say is he still getting, in the game plan? Is Matt Canada, who can be, a very kind of, I know the right way to do things guy.
He's a type A personality for sure.
He absolutely is. So is he not listening to Kenny Pickett enough? Is he? That we don't know. So that's the big thing. You don't know where the relationship, but I think what carries this is the respect everybody has for Mike Tomlin as a head coach and as a leader, that we're making this move obviously for the good of the team, and we hope to see something different happen.
So there we go. Matt Canada fired as the Steelers offensive coordinator. It finally happens. And this does pique my interest overall, Dad, because like we said, they're in the playoff hunt right now.
Yes.
In the AFC. And their division in the AFC North, we've talked about the quarterback attrition outside of the Baltimore Ravens. And so you do feel like you've got a chance right now, and changing it up at this important juncture could go a long way in that regard.
They play Cincinnati, who is not on their best right now. And then they play two win teams, the Cardinals and the Patriots. So now the Patriots have a good defense. But we'll see what this offense looks like coming off of the firing and somebody else. Again, the plays aren't going to change, but the relationship maybe between whoever it's going to be and Kenny Pickett and how you call plays is something that will change.
And this is interesting from an overall development standpoint for Kenny Pickett now, too. He's in his second season here, and I'm sure part of this is the Steelers getting a head start on, all right, we really got to start seeing what we have in this rookie quarterback as we get into the evaluation years on his rookie deal of, we've seen plenty of quarterbacks who, when taken and put into the context of a different offense with a different coordinator, have gotten out of them what they anticipated when they drafted them. And so you've got to, as much as anything, try and see if you can salvage this draft pick of your rookie first-round quarterback. And this could go a long way in that, in addition to trying to serve the master of this season and getting what you can accomplished there. So, Dad, one other thing here. I just want to play this sound because I haven't heard it yet in talking about other leaders, guys that are able to go out there and cobble together the most of what they've got here. Do we have frustrated Mike Vrabel coming off their loss to Jacksonville this weekend?
Jacksonville's better. They're a better football team. They're better coach, and they're a better team right now. So none of us would be able to do anything after that game yesterday. And I know that we're going to come back to work tomorrow and have a plan and see who's available and get to work.
So, Dad, I've often said Mike Vrabel reminds me a lot of Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin, who's usually made of steel in these press conferences, rarely gives you anything that he doesn't want to give you as a master of that moment. Mike Vrabel, a little bit more giving of emotion, and that looked like a guy who was going through it right now.
Yeah, it really did. I'm sure the players weren't maybe excited to hear that. They do have the Panthers next. Because I was going to say, will the players out of practice say, hey, coach, you think we're better than this team? You think we're better than this team? And they play the Panthers next and then the Colts. Two teams. Panthers have a worse record. Colts have a better record before they play the Dolphins. So interesting. But as we have said many, many times, and that this isn't rocket science, coaches get up and say things for certain reasons. They are addressing a certain crowd, whether it's media, whether it's fans, or whether it's players. And I have a feeling this one was directly to the players.
I have a feeling this one was also just he was really overwhelmed by how bad they looked and seemed like he was very sad. There seemed to be just a touch more honesty in that than we're used to from a coach that looked like he was really not having a great time. And understandably so, given what's gone on with that Titans roster, given the fact that they've now turned the reins over to a rookie quarterback, a lot to handle. But coming up next, we got even more to handle because Turkey Day is coming up. NFL Thanksgiving superlatives next.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. Thursday is Thanksgiving, if you didn't know. So I had my Christmas decorations up. Like, I'm already on to Merry season. We've talked about this on this show. Thanksgiving is a day. Christmas is a season. I see you snapping for me, GoJo. I know that's right.
Hey, listen, I'm right there with you. I put the stocking up in the background here yesterday. We got to get in the frame of mind.
Yeah. And
hey, I got 2 Christmas trees up right now.
Oh, your trees are already up.
Yep. Wife put them up right when we got here in the beginning of November. Yep.
I ordered my tree, so the tree is on its way, but it's not up yet. But, you know, we've talked about this. Like, I'm very excited to eat a lot of food on Thursday. I'm mostly excited because my family's in town and they do the cooking and they take care of my child and I can just do nothing. So that's what I'm really, really thankful for. But we will be giving out our Week 11 superlatives with a Thanksgiving twist on them here, okay? So let's start with our favorite unexpected performance of the week that we're calling the Ain't No Turkey Award. Where are we going with the Ain't No Turkey Award, guys?
All right, unexpected performer of the week, Dad. I mean, you want the obvious one here, right?
Well, I mean, Tommy DeVito to me, right? 3 touchdowns. You know, the list still. We every time we mention his name, we always have to mention he's living with his parents because that's seems to be such an oddity.
Yeah,
for a
Ain't
pro
No
athlete,
Turkey Award. He's like a chicken cutlet award, right?
Yeah.
This guy, and I'm sure he's going to have a wonderful Thanksgiving dinner at home with his mom, who sounds like she's a phenomenal cook. And the most important thing, because Dad, you know this, one of the difficulties at times of life as a young player, when you were just living, you know, in your apartment by yourself in Houston that famously had vacuum lines on the carpet in the guest room when you moved in and vacuum lines on that same carpet when you moved out because you never touched it, never did anything with it, never went in there. When you're on the road like that as a young player and you're outsourcing your Thanksgiving to other people, or like in college when we wouldn't go home and I would go to my buddy's house for Thanksgiving, sometimes that robs you of leftovers, and that's the biggest crime. For Tommy DeVito, he doesn't have to worry about that. He's going to have a stocked fridge full of leftovers the next day and be fueled up and ready to go win more ball.
Yeah, I listen. I'm with you there, and leftovers are the greatest thing. And I played on a couple of Thanksgivings, and that's always tough because you missed that meal. I remember we were out in Dallas one year. I believe it was Keith Byers, our running back's mom, made a dinner for like a big dinner for the team, which was a very cool thing because I enjoyed playing on Thanksgiving, but I didn't enjoy playing on Thanksgiving because I am a big Thanksgiving guy where I eat, I unbuckle my pants, and I sit on the couch and watch games until I eat again. I mean, that to me is Thanksgiving. All of a sudden, I'm putting on a uniform and hitting big grown men.
Yeah, that's got to be a tough bit of whiplash right there. Probably got to dry scoop some pre-workout if you're going to get ready and hype to play on Thanksgiving after that kind of meal. By the way, you can dry scoop NO Explode for your Thanksgiving touch football games too and really send that to the next level. Two-hand touch is going to be two-hand much quickly if you go that route. So
my God.
Everybody have fun. Dad, I want to just give a shout-out to one more person. Tommy DeVito is the obvious answer to this one. The Monday Night Football graphics crew. Unexpected performer. We have seen so many broadcasts resist covering Taylor Swift in any meaningful way. And instead, last night, the MNF crew put on the Andy Reid / Kansas City Chiefs Eras graphics package. Joe Buck narrated it perfectly and hit all the notes about reputation and all the song innuendos in there. I was just happy to see someone step up to the plate and realize, oh, this isn't so bad. We are also coming off a day where Travis Kelce did a very revealing interview with the Wall Street Journal, talking in detail about their relationship, waxing poetic about Taylor Swift. So we're all stepping into the light on this one, but it was nice to see Monday Night Football take the reins and be grown-ups about this.
I mean, yeah, why not lean into it, right? I mean, this is the biggest performer on the planet right now, you know, that's dating one of the biggest performers in the game they're talking about. Why not lean into it? So I'm very, very happy about that. Again, she was not at the game last night, but Travis and Jason's mom was. And how about her getting a police escort into the game? I think it was into the game. Donna is got it going on right now. She is it.
She did say, by the way, in that article that she'd felt badly about how her interview on, I think on Good Morning America was perceived, and that she was trying to kind of be tight-lipped about it at that point because she didn't know what she was supposed to say or not say in public. So let Donna off the hook on that. She was just trying to be a good mom like she always is.
How about Jason's wife? I love her, by the way.
Kylie, huge legend.
Something else. She did not go. She was at the game, but did not want to go in the suite because she said basically she's around a bunch of Kansas City people, and she said Travis has a lot of friends, so it gets pretty tight in there. And she said, I'm a stands girl. I'm going to go sit in the stands. That's what I want to do. And you know what? Getting to know her from the documentary and things, I can understand that. She seems very, very cool.
Yeah, she's come out of this with a huge Q rating here. The women around the Kelsey family, absolute ballers, and Kylie leading the charge on that one. Let's get to our next superlative here, guys. Still cooking. The team or player that picked up a must-needed win from over this past weekend. Dad, hard to look past Buffalo here, who, coming off the firing of Ken Dorsey, we've talked about Matt Canada today, went out here and was able to execute, get a win over a Jets team that is making changes of their own with Zach Wilson at quarterback. But Josh Allen and company understood, hey, the pressure's on us now. They all took it very personally that their coordinator change happened and seemed to, at least for 1 week, respond with that in mind.
I am going to look past Buffalo because the thought was Buffalo was going to be there at the end. Jacksonville was probably going to at least win the division and be there. To me, it's Denver. Denver has the longest winning streak in the NFL at 4 games. And the big question marks coming in when Sean Payton took over. Can Sean Payton and Russell Wilson work? Sean came in and basically threw out Russell Wilson's people, said they're not going to be in the facility. It's just for coaches. And it started out not great. And now they have the longest winning streak in the NFL. They've beaten some top teams in the NFL, and they're sitting there in the playoff hunt in the NFL. So to me, that has been really, really impressive what they have been able to do. So I'll go with Denver.
It was a good win. I just didn't know much needed the way I think about that and the pressure on them. It already feels like we're playing with a bit of house money with the Broncos relative to the start of their season. And maybe that's on me to update and protocol in my brain of what we think this team is actually capable of or how we perceive this team. I said the other day, we need to shoot that 70-point outing from the Dolphins against the Broncos into the sun. It is in no way instructive about how these teams are now at this point in the NFL season. So maybe you're right on that one. But, man, for Buffalo, it just felt like, Dad, for a team that, while it's easy to say now, yeah, we think they're going to be there at the end, it felt like the buzzards were circling. People looking at Josh Allen's style of play and wondering if it was sustainable. Criticism starting to go Sean McDermott's way about his ability to manage the team overall. I just think with that, the much-needed factor of it started to creep in. But the Denver Broncos, no doubt, cooking right now. Let's get into what we're thankful for this NFL season. Who fans, I should say, are most thankful for at this point in the NFL season, Dad? Which player, coach, team do you think the fans are most thankful for right now?
You could sit there and make a case for a lot of players, a C.J. Stroud with what he's doing with a rookie team that has a rookie head coach, and they're sitting there in the playoff hunt. A guy like Dan Campbell, who just every time you go to him, he's saying something motivating or crying and motivating, and it's just cool to see if you don't have a horse in the race that they're kind of a team that you root for. What Antonio Pierce has done to turn around the Raiders a little bit, but for me, it's the fact that every time you interview Myles Garrett and he doesn't have a shirt on, I'm so envious. I'm so envious to be able to just whenever you want, just take your shirt off and walk around because you look like an absolute stud. That dude is frightfully and scarily built. It is just amazing that human being is a defensive lineman who is on pace now to be the defensive player of the year. And I've always said, if I had a body like that, I'd never have a shirt on. And it seems like he rarely does have a shirt on, especially doing interviews. And that's awesome.
Nothing that big should move that well is routinely the line that comes to mind with him. And you're right, he looks like he's carved out of marble. It's terrifying. I've stood next to him in person, and it made me honestly thankful that my NFL career ended as soon as it did so that I didn't have to try and block anything that even remotely resembled that monstrosity here. Dad, I'll go another route. I'll say this. I think Dallas Cowboys fans pretty damn thankful for Dak Prescott right now. Playing some of the best ball in his career at this juncture, and because we've had so many messy storylines right now, I feel like somehow we've ignored the fact that the Dallas Cowboys have a quarterback who I think I saw Pro Football Focus the other day say is currently the highest graded quarterback in the NFL at this juncture. He's been statistically the best quarterback on third down for the majority of this season. And while people are going to put a cap on the Cowboys because of how it looked against the San Francisco 49ers earlier this year, I do think that Since then, we have seen the quarterback respond. CeeDee Lamb playing a lot better. That offense, especially the offensive line, keeping Dak Prescott clean and playing like one of the best in the league. But getting Rayne Dakota Prescott to ball out like this is what everyone had in mind when they gave him that whole huge heap and help of money.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they've won 4 out of their last 5. He has not turned the ball over in those last 5 games. He just has 2 interceptions, and I'm looking 8, 11, 14, I think, touchdowns. So that's been a key, because that's what we talked about from last year, is he turned the ball over too much, and that needed to stop. That's now Josh Allen who's turning the ball over too much. So Dak has cut that, at least for now, out of his game, and that's one of the things that could cost you more quickly than anything else. So, yeah, he's playing really well, and we already know they have a great defense. So looking forward to that next matchup with the Eagles. I get to call that game a few weeks from now in Dallas, so looking forward to that rematch.
Yeah, no, that's going to be a very exciting game there, and was a close one last time. Because, again, I think we look and judge so much off that 49ers game. Sometimes NFL game scripts just get thrown out of whack pretty early on, and it's hard to get them back on the rails. The 49ers, when they're dialed in right and healthy, are an overwhelming force of nature on both sides of the ball. And so I want to see this rematch. I want to see Dallas finish out the home stretch of the season. I know we talked about what it would take to actually get you to believe in them again coming off that 49ers game. I'm getting close. And maybe that's a mistake and a good way to segue into our next superlative, Dad. Let's go to the kids' table. Which team does not deserve mention alongside the big boys around the NFL anymore? Where are you going to start here, Dad?
Well, I mean, we keep talking about them thinking, can they, and the Chargers can't. You know, we keep looking at them as like one of the most underachieving teams with the talent that they supposedly have, and they just can't get it done on the field. So that's a team where while, like I said, we keep thinking it can happen, doesn't happen. So to me, it's between them or even the Steelers at 2 games over 500. It's just tough for me to put them in the playoff picture where they are right now, upper echelon of the AFC with an offense that's that bad. But I would probably lean toward the underachieving Chargers that just can't get it done.
I need to quit the narcotic, because I'm the one every year who walks back and gets suckered in by the talent. Great players, bad vibes. That seems to be the Chargers story. For whatever reason, they've got this collection of names that we all know, and you could argue defensively, some of those names do not play to their collective value that we think of overall on the outside, but offensively, got dudes. Justin Herbert, certified dude. There's no disputing that no matter what people want to say about him. Justin Herbert's a damn good quarterback and one of the best the league has to offer, but for whatever reason, and a lot of people are going to point back to coaching on that with Brandon Staley, who I don't think is going to survive this season, Dad. I'm not going to revel in that. He's not a guy that I'm excited to see fired. We're never excited to see coaches fired around the NFL. That's not how we operate, but it still seems inevitable given the fact that you've got a lot of cognitive dissonance around a team that for years we've expected to be better. And this supersedes Brandon Staley. Like, this has been like that before him. This has been the Chargers' problem forever, is they can never stay healthy, and for whatever reason, even when Phillip Rivers was there and you had a lot of continuity, they can't seem to get over that next hump.
You know, a lot of us see that. I'd imagine ownership there sees it as well, saying that we think we have more talent than what we see here. And like you said, we never would call for anybody to get fired, but it's inevitable that we get 4 to 7 coaches a year that are fired, and the job hasn't been done there basically because he's a defensive guy and the defense has not been playing well. The offense has some incredible talent that it just, as I said, as we both said, just can't seem to get it done. So yeah, I would expect there to be changes there as well to try and stir the pot.
And you look at, we've talked in the last couple of days about the NFL teams who's got the coaches with the warmest butts right now. Ron Rivera in Washington and Brandon Staley with the Chargers probably there. And you look who's waiting in the wings. Both teams have coordinators that are guys that have been in line for head coaching gigs in the last few years, with Eric Bieniemy in Washington, who took over and came as their offensive coordinator because he hadn't been able to land a head coaching job as the OC for the Chiefs and all the complicating factors we talked about there. And on the other side, you've got Kellen Moore, who there were people for a while, Dad, early in Kellen Moore's tenure in Dallas when he was having a ton of success and people weren't sure about Mike McCarthy, that wondered if they would part ways with Mike McCarthy and elevate Kellen Moore in there to make sure that he didn't walk out of the building. And so now there is a chance that at the very least, if you're going to make that change, there's someone that seems like they're in the wings waiting to be that next one up that could be a compelling or tantalizing offer if you're one of the people making that decision.
And you know what else is just kind of laying out there is Bill Belichick, right? I mean, is Bill going to be back in New England? Is Bill going to want to keep coaching? And there'll be a spot for Bill, right? I mean, we're 100% on that? If Bill wants to keep coaching and it's not going to be in New England, there's going to be a team out there that's going to hire Bill Belichick.
There absolutely is going to be a team, and it'll be interesting as the year goes along and more jobs open up, who we think that's going to be and how we think it's going to work, because they are definitely at the kids' table right now. That is not a serious football team. They're far away from anything resembling contention. But what have we seen, Dad? Every time you have tried to take the Patriot model of doing things outside of the specific context we've had for the last 2 decades in New England, it is largely crashed and burned outside of Bill O'Brien and a couple of playoff appearances with the Texans. And so would Bill Belichick, the architect of all this, the guy in the middle of it, one of the greatest NFL coaches of all time, would he be able to take this show on the road, or would it resemble some of his prior stops before that? I am going to be fascinated, because we're going to get a chance to watch this play out, because the more you've been the one that's saying it too, I think he wants that record. I think he wants to pass the all-time mark for wins as an NFL head coach, and he's not going to stop until he gets it.
Yeah, I think so. And you're right. If he goes to another team, that's an entire organization that is going to have to mind meld to the Belichick way, right? Because while the assistants have tried it when they've gone out and have failed, Bill has been successful in this one spot. But now, if he were to end up in a different organization and try and get everybody on that page, that will be interesting to look at, because he's been at this one place for so long.
And if whatever the next organization would be would also put the GMing duties in somebody else's hands.
Right.
Like, that does feel like a good compromise. If you're someone like, hey, Bill, we're excited about this opportunity. You're one of the best to ever do it. But we've seen the draft record recently over in New England, and we have some thoughts about how this could and should go. So that transition, because you're right, it's sort of the James Harden line when he came over to the Clippers and said, the 76ers were trying to make me a system player. I am the system. For Bill Belichick, you have been the system. At least in your mind. There's going to be all of us that always argue about the Tom Brady of it all and how that fits into it and how we describe all that, but he's used to having full run of the kingdom. Will another team turn over the keys that easily and that readily? That remains to be seen. Dad, let's get to the last one. Jesse, the crazy uncle of the NFL. I mean, this one feels pretty obvious, right? It's Aaron Rodgers on Tuesdays.
I mean, we all could have called that one. He's talking politics. He's talking, medicine. We got it all from Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, we do. And how about Travis Kelce, his little line? Travis Kelce, his little line about Aaron. He said, I get along with Aaron and blah, blah, blah. But he said, Tuesdays are now Aaron's game day. That's the day he goes on with Pat McAfee.
Savage.
It's so just kind of subtly saying, that's his day to go, and he spouts off in a lot of different directions, and listen, that's what they want him to do, and he does it. So yeah, I mean, I wonder, as the Jets are out of it more and more, is just what I had talked about earlier, is there's the little part in everybody's mind that hopes the Jets stay in it to see if this comeback would happen, that is now getting really distant in the rearview mirror, that if that will still be talked about as much. We'll see. I'm going in a different direction. I'm going with a head coach. You have two on either side, okay? You have Dan Campbell. You know exactly what you're going to get. Again, right? A motivational, sometimes crying guy that when he's done talking, you're going to want to run through a wall. The other side, you have Bill Belichick, who basically is going to say nothing, and you know that. Mike McDaniel, I don't know what he's going to say. Dude tried a short joke out in Germany, okay, that just fell flat. You don't know he's going to talk, but you don't know what he's going to say. And that's kind of the crazy uncle, is you're not sure what's going to come out of the mouth of that crazy uncle.
So I would say they all have different roles. I think Aaron's firmly the crazy uncle. I think Dan Campbell's the guy leading the charge to play touch football. All those memes that have been going around of me playing all-time quarterback for my kid and his friends' football games, 8 beers deep after dinner. That's Dan Campbell taking it way too far. And Mike McDaniel's the guy that you go smoke weed with out in the driveway when all of the young cousins disappear after dinner, or before dinner actually would be the right timing on this, and come back in smelling kind of funny. They're out there with Uncle Mike McDaniel taking a rip from the vape pen there. That's his role in life.
I almost blurted out a name when you said that.
I know what you're all thinking, and yes, we're going to have Thanksgiving power rankings tomorrow. We're going to build out our hypothetical plates for Thanksgiving. We're going to do it all. Charlotte Wilder is going to be here with us. Me, Dad, Jesse, Charlotte. We're all going to properly celebrate Thanksgiving the way the Lord intended, because some people resist the trappings of sports media, Dad, and sports talk radio and think, oh, it's outplayed. Everybody does it. No, they do it for a reason.
No, it's not.
Because we all care about this stuff and care about it a lot. You've been doing this for 2 decades, Dad. You know what works and you know what doesn't. Thanksgiving plate's always going to play around these parts.
Absolutely does. There are too many foods and sides and things around Thanksgiving that every single person that is listening or watching the show or shows around the country deals with every year. So it is absolutely worth talking about, and we will.
I am excited to slander cranberry sauce and apple pie tomorrow and piss a lot of people off in the process.
Well, easy on that. I'm going to slander yams.
Ooh, wow. All right. Did not imagine yams taking a glancing blow here, but that's showbiz, baby. And you know what else is part of showbiz is, as we're growing and learning on this show, and we appreciate everybody who's been with us since the beginning on this one, we're trying to make this look nice, sound nice, feel nice. And one of the other things that's instrumental in sports talk radio has always been drops and sounders. I miss having the little soundboard in front of me here when I hung out with the Levitard show guys. I got it jonesing again. My fingers started itching. And apparently our crew and producers have told us that we're working on drops right now. And we've got our first drop on the show that we've been hearing in the background down. They've been testing out in the control room. It's just, so play the sound for everybody. I'll see if anyone can guess what it is right off the bat, but play the sound first. All right, play it one more time. Dad, do you have any idea what that is?
It's just a man screaming. That's all I know. I don't know who it is, but it's somebody screaming.
That's not a man. That's Man Campbell screaming right now. That's the guttural Dan Campbell yell after the Lions' victory from this past weekend. That seems like the perfect inaugural drop for our show here that we have to call on now. That guttural yell. My sister, who's a coward who went in to give birth to her baby daughter, refused to actually wear her Dan Campbell graphic T-shirt like she promised. And so Dan on the other side screaming in frustration with Sydney.
My sister, who's a coward. Okay.
Yeah, that's a little
She talked
much.
a big game.
She did talk a big game, but Jesse, I think as anybody who has given birth, and there's only one of us of the three that has on the show right now, once that process starts, you just kind of, any plan maybe gets thrown out the window, kind of?
Yeah, I mean, when we talked about this, when you guys told me prior that she was planning on wearing her Dan Campbell shirt, I said, like, it's not going to happen. But, you admire the planning, you like the idea of it, but then, like you said, when you get there, it's just chaos. It's like the last thing on your mind is like, oh, I got to wear my special T-shirt. It's like, no, oh my God, a baby's coming.
She did have a big plan of wearing that, having a picture of her wearing Dan's shirt, and then later on this year, I may be calling a Detroit Lions game of then me showing said picture to Dan. So this was Sydney's big plan, which just obviously melted away as, the contractions hit and the pushing started.
Yeah, not
Maybe
surprised.
I went a little far with coward. Maybe
Yeah.
I went a little far with that.
I'd say you'll pay for that.
It's only because I wanted what was best for my sister in the biggest potential for her to make contact with Dan Campbell, who's a hero of hers. And I want to see good things happen for my sister. And I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm sorry.
Maybe next
what
time.
I also want to apologize for, Dad, is the continued relationship between Notre Dame and NBC. We didn't get to this yesterday, but this was kind of big news on our front from over the weekend that flew quietly under the radar because at this point in the season, we've got a really deep college football playoff conversation that does not involve Notre Dame anymore with 3 losses on their schedule. And so for a lot of people, they've been a little bit out of sight, out of mind. But Dad, Notre Dame athletic director Jack Swarbrick, on his way out, handing the reins to Pete Bevacqua, former executive at NBC, announced the Notre Dame media rights deal extension with NBC through the year 2029. They've been with Notre Dame now. This is the 33rd season that Notre Dame and NBC have had this television partnership. And Dad, as soon as this went through, this was basically the last signal that Notre Dame is going to continue to maintain its independence until whatever the next big round of conference realignment is, because when you couple this with the college football playoff expansion, you get all the ingredients necessary for Notre Dame to keep doing things the way they've been doing.
So again, for Notre Dame to stay independent, there were 3 things involved, but I think 2 really kind of took charge. One was, where do your other teams go, your other sports teams go, and making sure they're in a good spot. Right now they're in the ACC. So that's a thought process. That's kind of including everybody, right? That's probably one of those reasons. Let's make sure everybody's happy. But then the 2, let's be honest, the 2 biggest reasons are money, what you're getting, and I don't know what they're getting. They were getting about $20 million a year. We see some of the big conferences each team can make $50 million or more in that area. So you figured Notre Dame was probably going to be in that area or close to that area. There was probably a line, I'm sure they had, of how close can we get to what the big conferences are getting to where we're still good independent. And then the third thing is ease to get into the playoffs. And we're going from 4 to 12. So the ease is going to be there. What they won't get is a bye, because now we'll see what changes with the structure of the 12-team playoff, because the Pac-12 is going to be no more and how it all works. But basically, the conference champions, the top ones, are going to get a bye. And since Notre Dame won't be in a conference, they'll never get a bye. They could still host a first-round game if they're a high enough seed. But I think they'll live with that, not getting the bye, to stay independent, take that money that they're going to get, and move on. So yes, this was the big question. And I'll continue to say, if they were to go in a conference, it would be the Big Ten. And that's where all their teams, it would be a lot easier travel for their other teams to be in the Big Ten. But this is a reason they're staying independent, and I completely agree with it. And there'll be all the Notre Dame haters out there still throwing darts at them. Throw the darts away. They're in a better position to be where they are right now, and this is where they are going to stay. The thing that shocked me, Mike, was 5 years after I graduated is when this TV deal started. I had no idea that it was in their 33rd year. And this deal runs, I think, through 2029, I believe.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's going to be pushing 40 years on this deal. I did not think it was that long, but I am all for it. I've said if they can stay independent, and this is one of the ways they will, and it's exactly what they're going to do.
Yep, they did it. I think the biggest ripple effect you mentioned for conferences was the ACC always thinking that they might be able to pull this off. And for a conference that's seen some angst from Florida State and Clemson and some of the bigger brands about their future, Notre Dame represents an incredibly stabilizing force. Every time I go on and do interviews with ACC people, they're always extra mad because they understand if Notre Dame were to just join their conference, all of a sudden they might be in position to be one of the ones that survives. But instead, they've got to sit around now kind of wondering if they're going to be next, a la the Pac-12, or if they're going to be able to continue to hold this together. So there's some angst there. For Notre Dame overall, Dad, this season, does it feel like a success to you for Notre Dame this season? We reflected a little bit on that the other day. I went into this season and I said, when I was asked what a successful Notre Dame season would look like, I said it was resetting the floor. Are you going out and beating the teams that you're supposed to? And Notre Dame did that this season. They've still got Stanford on deck and have to go on the road and do that.
Right.
But the teams they've lost to this year, Ohio State, one of the top teams in the country, Louisville, a team that's getting ready to play in the ACC championship right now, and then a Clemson team who just beat North Carolina again this weekend and reminded you their talent is still better than I think what their record indicates. I still think it was a successful season, Dad. It just feels bad because we got back to that feeling, and this is where Notre Dame fans had been at the end of Brian Kelly's era. We were winning those games, and we wanted to get over the hump of the next one.
Yeah.
I think when we take a step back and look at this season, it sucks because we had Sam Hartman, and it felt like such a golden opportunity with a quarterback of that caliber to make it happen that we ignored the youth in some important areas on this roster. But I still do think this was an important year in terms of rebuilding the consistency in the areas I wanted to see that did come to fruition this year from Marcus Freeman in just year 2.
Yeah, I thought it would be 2 losses this year, and it'll end up being 3 as long as they take care of business in Stanford. I think the word I would use for them, Mike, even with 3 losses and a lot of wins, is they were a bit inconsistent at times, and I think that cost them. Listen, the Louisville one, Louisville's better than we thought, right? No doubt about it. The Clemson one, I thought they were going to get by there, and that was just a bad game. Congrats to Clemson on that one. So, yes, overall, beating the teams they should beat, I think it was successful. And what I like going forward is Marcus's recruiting ability and some of the recruits we have coming in to really get through his first full class.
And hopefully holding on to Al Golden, Notre Dame's defensive coordinator, who's getting some looks now. Al, please stay. All right, around the holidays, you tend to have a lot of different parts of your family or friend groups meeting here. And so this seems long overdue to have my work family here at GoJo and Golic meet my work family from the road, where I call games for college football Saturday night on radio for Learfield, with Chris Hassel, who's the play-by-play in our booth there, the co-host of Two Guys Named Chris, a great podcast covering all things Iowa and Iowa State athletics, and also does a great job working over at CBS Sports. But you guys might know Chris after yesterday from a video that broke the brains of people on the internet. Chris and I were at Iowa State for the Texas game this past weekend, and Chris, in his career along the media, at one point cut his teeth in local television in Iowa and got approached by a current member of the local news outlet from there that had some questions for Chris. And this is the video that divided the internet, the nation, yesterday, involving one Chris Hassel. Look at this.
Hey, Chris. Hey, good to see you, man. How you doing?
How are you doing?
Hey, quick question for you.
Yeah, sure.
Anything you want to say to Keith and Andy?
Who?
Keith Murphy, Andy Fales?
No, man. I don't do local media anymore. No.
Oh.
And next time, ask before you put that camera in my face.
Chris?
Chris Hassel joining us now. Chris, were you at all surprised by the reaction to this video yesterday?
Yes, absolutely surprised. I didn't think that many people would fall for it and interact with it. And I didn't think it would go like national. I thought this would just be a bit for the folks in Des Moines and throughout the state of Iowa who know me and know that it's a bit, and know those guys, Keith Murphy and Andy Fales, who are two of my best friends and my two mentors in this business. But then, of course, you retweet it, and then all the people who follow you are like, who the hell is this SOB? Who does he think he is? I don't even know who he is.
Well, listen, Chris, as soon as I saw it, now I said, this is a little too good to be off the cuff. I thought maybe it was scripted, but I still wasn't sure because I had not met you before. I immediately text Mike and I said, Mike, is this real? Because if it's real, man, your boy's going to get smoked, on social media. And Mike's like, no, it was a skit. I said, okay, all right. Then it was a well-played skit.
Well, I appreciate that. I think I got in the wrong business. I probably should have gone the acting route instead of the sportscasting route. I'd probably be making more money right now. But I do have a history of doing stuff like that. And that's where it all started, was Des Moines. And that skit that we did was for their show called Sound Off, which is Sunday nights after Sunday Night Football. So it's late night. And I kind of got my start in the business in my mid-20s doing skits on this sports pop culture show and being characters and just doing fun stuff like that. And so the people there know that that's what they know me for. They know me more for that than for, being a sportscaster or doing play-by-play. They think I'm the goofy guy. So that was for them. And then GoJo, of course, GoJo, you played it up perfectly online, saying that you should have heard what he said off camera. And I don't know if you could hear Golic in the background of that. I mean, I was talking to him as the camera came up, and Junior let out one of his famous laughs right afterwards. Yep. I said, because we did like 10 takes of this, and the photographer Mark Freund didn't want to use that one because he broke right after I dropped the F-bomb and turned around. And so we recorded a bunch after that, and they just weren't as good. And the only one where Golic did his actual, his famous laugh was that one. So I was like, we got to use that one. I don't care how fast we both break, because if that video goes one more second, you'll see me break in laughter and then the cameraman break in laughter and stop recording.
It was incredible. It was like an SNL sketch the entire way. You're absolutely right, where all of us are just right on the edge of breaking character for the entirety of this time. So we are here to dispel Chris Hassel, ardent supporter of local media here. Chris Hassel, all-around great guy. Certainly not someone going out here and shouting down local media cameramen. If there was anyone out here that still believed this after that entire run-in. So, Chris, is there anything else that you want to get out there into the universe on that front before we can put this ugly incident aside for us here?
I thought about leaning into it and like joining you guys from outside in front of the palm trees with sunglasses on and saying like, well, you guys get it. I mean, Senior, you've been in national media for 30 years. There comes a point where you don't want to talk to these local peons anymore. They don't deserve your time. But I figured that might be a little bit too much.
Oh, so good, though. It was
unfortunately, you just gave us the perfect soundbite there to clip out of context and put out there as Chris Hassel's response to this entire incident is, Mike Golic Sr., you get it. We don't have to associate with these losers anymore. Let's get on with it. But cooler heads prevailing. Chris, while we've got you here on the actual college football front, we've got the college football playoff rankings coming out again tonight. You and I were on the call for a really good game between Iowa State and Texas this weekend. You and I have covered Texas twice this year, first at the Alabama game that kind of put them on the map. From what you saw, as we're going to get ready to see the rankings come out again tonight, does Texas look like a team that not only can make the college football playoff, but actually win a game once they get there?
I mean, we saw them go into Alabama and beat Alabama. And I know it was week 2. It was early in the season. Alabama's playing better football now than they were then. But starting to hear these, talking heads say, well, if they played today, Alabama would win. So Alabama should jump Texas if they end up beating Georgia in the SEC championship game. I mean, at some point, the games have to matter, don't they? I feel like if Texas wins out, they should stay ahead of Alabama because we saw that game firsthand. They went blow for blow with Alabama and then ended up winning by double digits at Alabama in that game. They have proven that they are a legit playoff contender, and I think if they win out, they should have a chance to go to the college football playoff. I mean, the pass catchers that they have are among the best that we've seen all season, maybe the best. And the 2 defensive tackles are just incredible. They swung that game against Iowa State. At some point, a lot of people will use the argument, well, we're trying to get the 4 best teams. Well, it's also partially the 4 most deserving teams and the 4 teams that showed it on the field. So, like Florida State, if they go unbeaten, in my opinion, there's no way they should be jumped by anybody that has 1 loss. Same with Washington. And Texas, I'm keeping them ahead of Alabama as long as they keep winning because we saw that game firsthand.
1,000% agree on Florida State. Even though losing their quarterback, they should be in. We only have about a minute left. You guys covered 6 of the top 10 teams. Your guys' schedule was incredible. I'm glad Kate Scott and I 2 years ago could pave the way for you guys.
Are you jealous?
To have great games. Yeah, I am. Between you guys and Tom Bowman, who runs the whole show there, my God, you guys going to great game after great game. Georgia, in your mind, in the short time we have left, are they undoubtedly the best team, or is there a cluster?
Man, we saw Georgia twice. They looked really good. Nobody's beaten them. I was actually the one of the most impressive teams I've seen, maybe the most, is Oregon. We saw Oregon at Washington earlier this season. Oregon should have won that game. They should have. They outplayed Washington, and that's why they're the favorite to win the Pac-12 right now, even though they have that loss. I think Oregon might have a chance to not only get in the playoff, but make a serious case to be the top team in the country. But to your question, until somebody beats Georgia, I think you got to keep them number 1.
Yep, I would tend to agree there. We could have a Georgia versus the field conversation that could be pretty interesting at this point, but going to be left to battle it out on the field, and that's the beautiful part about all this. We got the game coming up this weekend, Ohio State and Michigan. I'm sure Lou Holtz will have a lot to say about that one when it comes to his counterpart, Ryan Day.
Are they going to be physical enough at the point of attack? Is Ohio State going to put away their sissy pants and finally man up against Michigan? Don't give me this stuff about Jim Harbaugh stealing signs. That means nothing. I tell you, they got to be more physical than Michigan, or they're going home with their tail between their legs again.
That's the only preview you need. Chris Hassel as Lou Holtz, ladies and gentlemen, undefeated, untied. Chris, thanks. I'll see you this weekend as we call the Apple Cup, Washington and Washington State, that mercifully got extended as well this season. All right, welcome back. Time to finish off the show with this, that, and the third. As always, 3 quick stories to send you off on in the rest of your day. Make sure you download, subscribe, rate, review us, leave us that 5-star rating, and check us out live Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern on DraftKingsNetwork.com, the DraftKings YouTube channel, Samsung TV Plus, Roku, and more. And if you miss any of it, like our great guests, shout out to my buddy Chris Hassel, play-by-play for Learfield College Football Saturday nights, co-host of Two Guys Named Chris, wherever you get your podcast, covering Iowa athletics, Iowa State athletics, and over on CBS Sports. You can check out that interview and the rest of the show wherever you get your podcast, as well as right here on YouTube as soon as we finish up with this show. We will get to the story. We rarely, in sports media, we're wrong a lot. But when we're right, we really like to celebrate the wins right now. And we got one of our biggest wins in recent memory that we will hold up and make sure you guys hear about. After you hear about our friends at Wrangler, they are a big supporter of us here at the show, which means you need to support them. Wrangler's got jeans, shirts, and jackets made for the ride of life, so you can be ready for those cooler days and longer nights in styles that are going to keep you warm, comfortable, moving, and looking great no matter where you are. You can wear Wrangler jeans literally anywhere, at work, out at night, playing a pickup game, with your friends or at home, watching the game on TV. They're that comfortable and that durable. For my money, the perfect Thanksgiving wearables there. Good for the table, good to flex and unbutton after you finish the meal, good to go play the touch game in the yard. It's all deadly. There's Wrangler for every occasion. Casual tees, snap and button-ups, or layer them together. Get the best of both worlds, and make sure you don't forget about the iconic Wrangler jackets. When the weather starts to chill and you got to venture outside, Wrangler is going to keep you ready for anything. So add some Wrangler to your getup with jeans, shirts, and jackets that look great, fit great, and move great, so you're always ready for whatever life throws at you. Save 15% on your first Wrangler.com order when you use promo code GOJO15. That's GOJO15. Wrangler, for the ride of life. Guys, let's get to this, that, and the third and start off with this. I love a good hot dog cannon. I love a good t-shirt gun. One of my dreams was to get to fire a t-shirt gun, and shout out to the Hartford Yard Goats for letting me do it. I have now upgraded those dreams to getting to launch a hot dog cannon. And Drake University brought out their hot dog cannon with the intention of going and making days and making lives. And instead, what they got was the ultimate fail that we're going to watch right here.
It just...
Loading up the hot dog.
Here we go. Everybody back up. Cover your eyes. Boom. And it just... Do you see the little...
For those in the podcast audience, it shot about 4 feet in front. And the gun, Jesse, is a giant hot dog in and of itself. It's a hot dog launching hot dogs. It's essentially giving birth to a projectile, and it couldn't launch it but more than 4 feet.
4 feet is generous. That came right... I mean, 4 feet is really generous. It looks like it was... We're talking inches at best.
Yeah, that's a shame. I mean, because I'm with you as far as a t-shirt cannon and here firing out hot dogs. Very, very cool. You were waiting for that sucker to go up into the second deck, and it went, I agree more with Jesse, about 4 or 5 inches. That was it. And just wad right down on the ground. So big time malfunction. It's a shame because I'm sure there were a lot of hungry people looking for a free dog.
Sure, the hot dog cannon guy was like, this never happens. It's usually not like this. I apologize. Like, this usually never happens to me. I will say it's got the chance to make or break a lot of lives, because I remember as a kid going to football games at Notre Dame Stadium, and after touchdowns, the cheerleaders would throw hot dogs into the stands, and they're wrapped in the tin foil, so they can get a pretty good bit of arm action on those things. And I caught the hot dog and ate it, and I've been in love with tube meat ever since. I love a good hot dog. You don't even need to dress it up, and it's all because the Notre Dame Stadium hot dogs were so good when I was a kid.
Yeah, hot dogs are amazing. I mean, don't try to figure out what is, in them, but
I agree.
Nice.
Yeah, don't do it. I will choose a brat over a hot dog. I will go brat.
Yeah,
and I like them burnt
100% of the time.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, and I like them kind of to the burnt side as well. That's why I love doing a game with the Packers, because that's halftime. Man, they're brats.
Brat on a pretzel bun will change your life.
Oh, yeah. Shiver
there
me
you
timber,
go.
Xerxes. That's
wow.
just...
I'm hungry
I will
right
say, too,
now.
by the way, you're not a bad guy if you just put ketchup on a hot dog. I know people try and act like that's baby stuff.
No.
It's not. If you want to dress your hot dog with ketchup, do it. I do it all the time.
Boom.
Don't let big mustard get their claws into you. It's ridiculous.
I agree. I agree.
Speaking of not falling for the old okie doke. Jesse, this is our moment to celebrate being right here. Snoop Dogg came out and tried to sell us on the fact that he was giving up smoke, and we saw through this right from the jump.
Yeah, he said he was giving up smoke, and we said there's no way. It's a marketing ploy. We know that it is. So he releases his statement, says he's giving up smoke, and then this comes out. I'm done with smoke. I'm going smokeless with Solo Stove. #ad. So it was an ad. We called it. It was going to be an ad. What I will say is we didn't realize it would be for something like a Solo Stove. I mean, we thought it was going to be for an edible line or something still to do with weed, but it wasn't.
Yeah, this one surprised me a little bit. It was just, this nice. He's sitting out. They just show him close about giving up smoke, and then pan out, and there's this nice little smokeless fireplace, burning in front of him. A very cool thing, by the way. But I thought it was going to be edibles, because there's no way he was giving up smoking. That just wasn't going to happen. So we saw through it, but good marketing ploy for a guy that we said 3 decades has been incredibly relevant.
Some people didn't see through it, though, GoJo.
I was going to say, Meek Mill and a bunch of people actually said they were going to give up smoking weed in solidarity with Snoop Dogg, started talking about potential health benefits for their lungs and stuff, or just general wellness. Like, Snoop Dogg is a weed influencer. He changed the course of a lot of people's lives for an ad right here, Dad. This makes me think of the line in A Christmas Story when you've got Ralphie going and collecting the thing with his decoder ring, and then all of a sudden he sees that it's an ad at the end of it and is disgusted. I wonder how the people that have followed Snoop Dogg for so long felt about this. Maybe this was a betrayal to them.
Well, how do they feel if they publicly said they were going to give up smoking? They got suckered in. I mean, then you got to just look in the mirror and say, how do you get suckered into this? Just by one tweet by Snoop, and all of a sudden you're giving up smoking marijuana? Come on. That's on you, man. That ain't on Snoop. That's just good damn marketing by Snoop's side.
Apparently. Well, we were not naive enough to fall for it.
No, we were not.
you can always trust us to see through the noise and give you the truth on this show. We promise you that much. Jesse, let's get to the third here. We've talked so much about Jim Harbaugh and sign stealing that I never realized we needed to be prepared for Jim Harbaugh and joke stealing.
Yeah, it's not sign stealing, it's line stealing. He's not coaching Saturday against Ohio State, but he says the Wolverines locker room is as cohesive as ever. And then he started borrowing from Ted Lasso. That's how I'll say it.
It's like the Ted Lasso show, believe. What comes out of that is believe, and I'm just so proud of our team. Despite that noise, our locker room's in one piece. And like Ted, for me, locker rooms, a lot like my mom's bathing suits. Like to see him in one piece.
So you know what I'll say is context matters in these. The clip that I saw was just the clip of the mom one-piece bathing suit joke, which obviously for Ted Lasso fans is something we all heard Ted say. But hearing him on the front end talk about Ted Lasso and believe, that feels like, Dad, he cited his source enough for me to give him a pass on this and say that this wasn't outright theft.
Listen, I have no problem with him going down this road. How many other people have used a Ted Lasso line somewhere? Give me a break. I mean, I have no problem if you want to incorporate that into your
But I
talk.
thought he was trying to pass it off as his own joke here. He was clearly leaning into the lasso of it all, Jesse. You see what I'm talking about.
Ted Lasso. He just was
Yeah, he wasn't trying to steal. I'm with you. Now, all of a sudden, the whole, it's how I want to see my mom's bathing suit one piece is a little, I'm sure for those who haven't seen that out of Ted Lasso are a little, okay.
Yeah, whoa.
How is that hitting? Yeah.
I mean, they could probably all understand and empathize with that. I feel like that's a pretty universal human condition.
Is that what you feel about your mother?
Oh, God. Be careful what you say next. It is the week of Thanksgiving.
I have no opinions on this matter other than I understand the line to be funny for what it is here.
I think that's best.
You try and paint me into a corner right now on Thanksgiving. Who the hell do you think you are?
I mean,
I don't really know if you got out of that well.
It's a good thing you're not going to Arizona because you called your sister a coward. So
you called your sister a coward, and you really didn't just come out and say my mother could wear any bathing suit she wants. She would look great in it. You didn't go down that road.
I'm not disputing that she would look great. I'm saying nobody wants to see their mom in a two-piece bathing suit. I feel like I'm not alone in this.
I got a feeling in about 15 seconds when this show ends.
Did you want to see your mom in a two-piece bathing suit?
Were you cool with that?
Nobody talking about me.
Bikini pic. Drop the bikini pic.
You better make a phone call when this show's over. You better make a phone call. Hello, Mom. Sorry.
What weirdo wants to see their mom in a bikini? Freak.